18th of July on Corvessa, transiting the Johnstone Strait, central and now western part. Wind this morning, we got up at 5 to take advantage of lesser winds with a contrary current. The current's supposed to flatten out the waves, so in the worst part, it flattened them out to 4 to 6 feet on a short period. And true wind speed's been, for the early part of the morning, 20, 25, gusting 30, and now it's about 13, so it's definitely moderated. Dylan was a little seasick for part of it, but he's feeling better. And we got him watching The Martian, eating some ginger. Andy seems to be doing okay. You feeling okay, buddy? Maybe, maybe not.
After spending a week in Desolation Sound, which is about this area, we came over here to Campbell River, and we needed to get through an area called Seymour Narrows, which is right about there. It gets very narrow. The current at max flood or max ebb can reach up to 9 or 10 knots in there, sometimes possibly even more. So you do have to hit it at slack tide. And there's other options too. You can go through some of these smaller inlets, but there's also some very narrow areas that they call rapids that truly are rapids when you're hitting them at max ebb or max flood, which you don't do. It's just not something that you would do. I mean, boats get sucked under when you do that. So you hit them at slack. So regardless of whether we went this way or whether we went one of these little inlets up here, we were going to have to time our passage pretty carefully. So we left Campbell River pretty early in the morning to be able to come up here to Seymour Narrows, hit that at slack, and then head up the Johnstone Strait. And the Johnstone, this is Discovery Passage, sorry, and then over here is the Johnstone Strait. And this is one of the more difficult pieces of water because you generally get really strong northwest winds just funneling down through here. It's basically a wind tunnel. There's a couple little places where you can tuck in and go around, but there is one stretch where you can't, and it's right here. And so the stretch that we did was basically from here to here, and then we tucked around that island, and then we went from here to here, and then we tucked around that island, and then we headed up into the Broughtons.
The chop was big and uncomfortable for a while, and our faces and lips were covered with salt. But soon enough, it was over, and we found a very comfortable, calm anchorage in Forward Harbor that night. The kids played in the water and on the rocky beach, and we even found the remains of an old midden, but we were too nervous to take the trails ashore to the other side due to reports of bears being seen in the area. The next day, we went to Minstrel Island, where we tied up at a dock at an abandoned marina. Minstrel Island used to be the hub of this area, with 5,000 people living there and on the surrounding islands. The kids found a beach, which wasn't actually sand, but rather finely ground white shells. But considering the lack of sand that we had experienced, it was better than nothing. And we took it while it lasted.
This is barnacle tree.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a tree of barnacles. So here's the stem, and these guys live up here. Instead of leaves, it's barnacles.
That's pretty cool. Passage to navigate. We've got our wagoners here to do some research on anchorages and various passages that we need to do. This has been incredibly helpful. Of course, we have our ports and passes book, which is very important because that's where we look up all the tides and currents that are really important and what we need to know about them to time our passages. Of course, we have our paper charts here, which are backup, but they're also really good for planning. And up top, we've got access to our electronic chart plotter, which we
We didn't have the time or the energy, unfortunately, to explore the Broughtons a little more. After a wonderful afternoon fishing and exploring the tide pools of Hanson Island, we headed northwest to the community of Alert Bay. We spent 3 days working on the boat, exploring the town, and enjoying our neighborhood. This is where Tom discovered how difficult our engine's impeller is to replace, and where I discovered that the kids could drive me absolutely bonkers. But we all recovered, and we did enjoy our 3 days here. Over half of the residents here are First Nations people, and the village of Alert Bay itself lies on the traditional land of the Kwakwaka'wakw people. One of the highlights of our trip here was the Umista Cultural Center, which we highly recommend. We took the ferry over to the Finnish settlement of Sointula because our boat is Finnish after all, and it was pretty cool to hear Finnish being spoken in a couple places in town. The next day, we headed northwest again up the Golettis Channel towards Bull Harbor, where we waited for our weather window to cross the Nwitty Bar and go around Cape Scott.